two, one, two, three.
Hello and welcome to Ithaca DSA Presents. I'm Theresa Alt. I'm here today with Murali Sitaraman. He is Professor Emeritus of Computer Science from Clemson University. We will be talking about AI, artificial intelligence. Murali Sitaraman, what is AI? How is it different from other software?
We'll talk about the good and the bad parts about AI. Right now, anytime software is used, people just call it AI. So the same software you might have used 10 years ago, you wouldn't have called it AI. But today, everything is called AI. Obviously, it's a big buzzword out there, and anyone that wants to promote their software wants to say it is AI. So, what distinguishes AI from, say, regular software? We all understand, when you multiply two four-digit numbers, for example, there's an algorithm, there's a procedure for doing that, right? So when software does things based on a procedure like that, that is what you can think of as classical software. It follows a procedure, somebody has given it the procedure, and it's always going to produce, the same answer type of stuff. What they've done with AI is to introduce, kind of expand the place where it can answer questions. And one of the ways they do this is by using guesswork. If you ask your question, you may get the right answers, but you may not also get the right answers. This is because the quality of the answers depend on what the AI system is basing its answer on. If, for example, AI got all its answers from school children and then it used it as its base to give you answers, then the quality of answers you're going to get is what you might expect from a school child. So essentially, you don't know what exactly underlies it, but main thing to understand is it involves a little bit of guesswork, and so the answers may not always be right, but it expands the kinds of things that software can do.
Taking an example of software that a lot of people in this community may have become familiar with, the Centralis medical system has a computerized system, My Chart, where it asks you to fill out forms and sign in for appointments and stuff. Is that an example of AI?
I checked Centralis actually at some point, and somewhere it says it does use AI. So I am pretty sure that some parts of the Centralis system does use AI. So this is also maybe a good place to say a little bit about, what works well with the AI.
Well, I was about to say it's a very annoying system
Sorry about that.
where it tells you to fill out a form and you fill out the form and then it tells you again and again and again to do it.
So some of the good things it does is there are certain messages that doctors or nurses can write that is pretty easy to write from the data. If it's looking at your cholesterol data or the sugar data, it can say, oh, your sugar has actually gone down or your cholesterol has actually gotten worse. And so, here's some things that you should think about, and maybe we should talk more about this. What I just said does not need a human person to say this. An automated system can take the data and produce this answer. In terms of routine messages that people write, like at a business, they are getting a lot of applications. They want to write some farm messages. That's pretty easy to do. So, the same way Centralis can do certain things automated. Again, one way to look at AI is it's just extension of automated systems. We are all already used to picking up the phone and they're saying, press one, press two, and press three, and so forth, right? So
Yes.
that has been around for a long time. And it surely is frustrating. And eventually you say zero or operator because you want to get out of it. So it's kind of nice to think of AI along those same lines, except instead of saying press one and press two and press three, it talks in a way that sounds like a human. Oh, let me see what you want. Is this what you want? Instead of asking you to press one. The human interaction part of what has happened is a big development with AI that gives it this human touch that the automated systems before did not have. But that doesn't solve the problem that you are having. So if you ask any difficult question, it can't answer it, just like we couldn't answer it before. So it just makes you go through circles and you feel like you're getting nowhere. I've had that using
Yeah.
systems, and that's probably the frustration.
But surely, have I filled out this form already is not a difficult question.
So again, this then goes back to the quality of the underlying systems. And, different businesses have come along in different ways on this dimension. And so some are going to be better and some are going to be worse.
I think you may have already said something about this. How much can we trust AI's answers?
Well, this is almost at the heart of the question. What happens is many times we ask questions that are in some sense straightforward, and the software can, AI can basically pick it up from a Google doc or map or something, and it can give you more or less right answers. So what happens is we get into this belief that what we get from AI is mostly right, and we don't question it as much as we should. So let me give you
I
an
do.
example.
I have
Uh,
seen, I mean, I have done Google searches, seen the AI summary at the top, and seen that there were mistakes in it.
it absolutely happens. So let me give you an example. And so just to help everyone here understand where to trust it and where to question it type of stuff. I follow sports. I follow all kind of sports. And one of my friends sent me this list. Here are the top 10 well-known people who retired in the prime of their career. That is, while they were still in peak form, they retired. And so you'd put up 10 names. And it turns out at least five of these names were not right. So that's like 50% was wrong. And for example, it had Michael Jordan in there. And many people know that Michael Jordan did retire after winning championships. First, after winning three championships, he retired. He came back, he won three more NBA championships and retired. But what many don't know is he came back again and was a pretty average player for a year or two playing for Washington Wizards. So, and only then he really retired. But see, this goes into subtleties that an AI system just cannot understand. It kind of saw, some information that he retired at this date, and then it was happy to tell you that he retired at the peak of his career. So the only reason I was able to spot this, and like I said, 5 out of 10, was because I knew the players, I knew their careers. So, Teresa, I don't know how much you follow sports,
I
but
don't.
if you got those 10 names, you would not have any idea whether they are correct or totally wrong, or you have no idea. So this is what I tell people. So if you understand what you are looking at, if you ask a question and you are able to judge when you get the answer, okay, this looks plausible, this looks potentially right. If you are able to say that, then you have enough knowledge in that domain to have some confidence in that answer. But see, if I ask a question in biology, something I don't understand, and I get an answer, I have no idea whether it is right, totally wrong, or somewhere in between. So I tell people, don't take answers you get from AI in areas you don't understand for granted. Verify them. So that is the general long answer to the
Okay.
question of, yeah, if so it's your
Yeah.
expertise. You are saying, okay, I know this place. If I ask it to do a design of a bathroom, I understand how bathrooms look. So I can look at it and say, oh no, you put the toilet on top of the sink. This can't be right. You should be able to say that.
Yeah.
But then, yeah, so that's what I'm trying to say.
Okay. Can AI replace teachers, other kinds of workers?
This is a really good question, Teresa, and it's at the heart of, what many people are struggling with. We see AI everywhere. And when unemployment goes up, like it did last year, are we going to say that AI takes some of those human jobs? Possibly. But the general thing that's happening, I start with teachers, that you asked first. So there is this great big urgency to put AI in the classroom and get the teachers out of there. Well, thing we just talked about having trustworthy answers, that is, a central problem. So if you're teaching children and some of the answers they are going to get may or may not be right, then it colors their whole learning process. The other way to look at it is, why are companies trying to replace teachers, people with AI? Well, it's cheap. So, there's this whole saying, you get your money's worth. Sometimes that is true. AI can, definitely help in certain regards in learning, but at the same time, it is no substitute for a good teacher. They put AI in because it's cheap, and sure enough, how good it's going to perform depends on what data it has, and it may help children who just are doing fine anyways, but it may be of no help at all to children who need the most help because it may take them through cycles, just like we were talking about with the Centralis system, that it just doesn't help them. So, whereas a teacher can really help a student. So what we have to understand in all these cases is surely companies are willing to put low quality AI agents and replace workers. They are happy to do that as long as we customers are happy with the quality we are getting. But my guess is, except for some really low hanging fruit, AI is not going to be a good substitute for much more skilled workers.
A friend of mine, of ours, wrote recently, if computers become smarter than us, will anyone be able to articulate to them why humans are worth keeping around? And my response was, AI can't feed a cat.
Well, I think you have a cat, Teresa, and I do too. And cats do need to eat. More than the I think we have to think about how our society is organized in terms of the organizations and the CEOs making decisions that put profit over the health and well-being of their workers. This is not the first time this is happening. It's happened over and over and over again in human history. So it is entirely possible. The AI systems. So again, this gives me another little place to say a couple of different things here. So one of the things is that many people think of AI as just doing pattern matching, that it has all these answers and then it matches and gives you the best pattern that it has seen most often or something like that, which is true to some extent. But what is also true of AI systems is that in addition to pattern matching, whoever is controlling these AI systems, they are giving it instructions because they are trying to kind of put a boundary around what AI can and can't say. And drawing this boundary is really, really hard. So you might have seen in the news that Grok, for example, is right now involved in a situation where it is starting to produce obscene images of people, children. And you might think, why can't they just stop this? Well, what Grok has figured out is if they can use their modification algorithms on modifying people's images, that's going to make a lot of money. So they want to make that a big part of what they are selling. But there is a lot of difference. Just think about how might you give instruction to say these things are okay. Like, is it okay to change the top of a person from this color to this color? Seems okay. Can I change the top just a little bit, lower how much their, wrist shows? Sure, maybe that's okay. What if I do this? What if I do that? So what happens is the people who are producing these AI systems are giving it non-trivial instructions. And these instructions may not always be in sync. They may be in conflict. So the AI system ends up doing things that they don't want it to do, but it's not exactly as simple as saying, don't do this. If they start saying, don't do many of the things, then it won't do much of anything. So they have to let it do things. And unfortunately, it does, things that we don't want to do. So again, some people think, oh, this problem will go away next year. No, it won't go away next year. That'll be just a new problem.
Okay. How do data centers like the one proposed for Lansing relate to AI?
This is a complicated question. One of the things AI does, as we have talked about over and over again, is it works by looking at lots and lots of data and analyzing, to produce its answers based on complex instructions it's been given. These data centers have a lot of computers basically chugging away, trying to analyze whatever data they have. And the big businesses, like Amazon and, all these places, they have their big AI data centers. But it's not just that. There are a lot of smaller companies that are figuring that if they create a data center, they can make a lot of money. So they have become subcontractors to these big AI companies. So when the data centers run, they are going to use energy. And to attract them, the local utility companies often give them a sweet deal. So if I charge you 2 cents for the same amount of energy, I might just charge them 1 cent, for example. So alternatively, to look at it is the general public is kind of subsidizing the energy that the data centers are using. One of the main problems with data centers, so one thing people hear about is, oh, it's going to use up lots of energy. Well, it does use a lot of energy, but again, how much? It may not be as much as people think. It's mostly like, is this energy being used in a useful way? Are we just throwing away energy? That is part of the problem. And if someday this old AI data center business is not very useful, what happens to all these data centers? You know, then the last thing to kind of say is, when you put up these data centers, there's some construction and stuff. It might bring some employment, but once they are up there, they don't need much maintenance. There's not going to be a lot of employment. So it's one of the things people have to carefully consider, the long-term ramifications, not just the electric cost today or anything like that. There's definitely part of the equation before deciding whether they want these data centers in their backyards or not.
So it's been suggested that they cause global warming. Is that
Again, this is a broad question. To the extent they waste energy. So I read somewhere that every time the AI system says hello to you and pleasant stuff to you, there's energy cost behind it. So every time somebody, says some funny stuff, or, Google AI push that summary, it's not free. It uses lots and lots of energy to do those things. So, it's almost like crypto mining. You can ask, do I want to do crypto or not? That's a separate question. But there is no question that crypto mining uses energy that perhaps we could be using in other ways. That's the same kind of answer I want to give here. It's completely unclear if we need all these data centers, looking 5, 10 years from now, will they all be used in the way that they are being used right now? And should global energy resources be going toward it? Of course, the more energy we are putting out there, the more warming we are causing the planet, if they don't come from renewable resources.
so? It sounds as if it would be pretty important to make sure that data centers have perhaps dedicated renewable energy.
That is a possibility. And also, some people are saying we are going to take the heat from these data centers and use it to heat homes. I don't know, so but the more central question is, how needed are they? That's part of the question.
Finally, my question, you might say off the wall, could AI have a religion?
It obviously could pretend to have religion. Let me put it that way. So one of the things
Well, people do that too.
that's true. So one of the things I just want to say, that this is perhaps the scariest part of AI to me. And I think I want your audience to understand this. AI is not doing any reasoning. It's just matching patterns and following a set of complex instructions it's been given. So one of the dangers with all the AI we are seeing is, when you start using AI, you start thinking you're dealing with a rational agent when you are not. So you are starting to think like it's a real person out there that you're having this conversation with, when it is not at all true. So since you're actually speaking to a machine with random instructions, it might just lead you down paths that you really shouldn't be going. We have heard about some children, being directed to take their lives perhaps because of the random instructions that they got, and they really believe they were talking with a rational agent. So I think the scariest part, from the question you asked, whether AI can have religion, is that we somehow start thinking it could be a rational person. So that, to create this distinction in our head, that whenever we are using AI, no, we are not talking with a rational person. And in fact, even the designers don't exactly know why it gives the answers it gives when it gives them. That's part of the whole mystery for them. So as long as we can keep it, that they are not human, they're just machines producing this stuff in front of us. Sure, they sound like human. So there's, uh, if we can keep that, that would be a big help. So let's not be thinking they are rational agents. That's the scariest part to me.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Murali Sitaraman. This has been interesting. We have been talking about artificial intelligence and what's good about it and what's bad about it. This has been Ithaca DSA Presents. I'm Theresa Alt. Thanks for watching.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3.